Welcome, my name is Matt Mead, I'm the CTO of SPR, and today we're going to be talking about topics related to security. And we'll be pulling in data from our technology industry survey. We asked organizations how they integrate security into their software development lifecycle, or SDLC. And what we found is that approximately 92% of the leading firms integrate security to a large extent, whereas only about 61% of the non-leading firms integrate security into their SDLC. My guest with me today is Justin Rodenbostel, EVP within delivery at SPR. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Matt.
To what extent are you seeing organizations integrate security into the SDLC?
Well, certainly to a greater extent than we ever have before. And I think it really starts with representation. I think that we see security expertise in stakeholders and in team members. And I think that translates to security being a priority from when projects are being planned and budgets are being determined on through execution and delivery of code.
So Justin, if an organization wants to start integrating security into their SDLC, where would they begin?
Good question. I think there's a few different ways. I think first, again, it's a question of representation, making sure that we have the right people on the team, people with expertise. Secondly, I think it's always good to establish a baseline of understanding through training, right? It's great to create awareness for people who don't know, to complement those people that you embed on your team who do know. And then finally, it's really great to back up humans with automation. So when teams are building out their continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines, they're able to add tools to the chain that automatically test code bases and dependencies and infrastructure configurations for vulnerabilities.
So Justin, you mentioned having the right people on the team. So when we think about adding security professionals to a product team or a development team, how can that be effectively done?
Well, I think recently with the rise in product thinking and teams organized around DevOps, I think it's become normal for there to be kind of cross-functional representation among team members and shared accountability, right? So I think applying that same kind of cross-functional and shared accountability approach and invite the security experts onto teams, right, to help establish what is included in user stories in terms of acceptance criteria, how project success is defined, and what makes like a deployment considered successful. I think that's really all there is to it. You need to make sure that security is considered when planning, throughout execution, and that there are experts there to support the team.
So how is it, Justin, that you see the role of IT shifting?
Well, I think that there have been some trends recently in the industry that have moved away from IT kind of being considered a silo and more being a part of business units, being a part of the delivery of products and services that drive revenue within companies. And I think in that way, IT is transformed from a cost center and into a revenue driver, a key part of keeping the business machine moving.
So Justin, you and I have known each other for over a decade. You've had an exciting career where you've been a practitioner and now a leader within the organization. How do you see IT changing over the years?
I think it's been a shift away from kind of the siloed, centralized IT of the past and more towards, especially with the rise of DevOps and product thinking and a product-centered culture at our clients, we see organizations move IT kind of to be more closely aligned with the business units, so that IT is considered less a cost center and more of a contributor, like a driver of revenue.
That's a great point. I think the role of IT really has shifted from more of that siloed cost center to more of a revenue driving entity that's partnered with the business. In our survey, we saw there were a lot of leading firms that rated themselves the highest for security attainment. I'm sort of curious, Justin, from your perspective, do you think of security as a static environment or this ongoing dynamic environment?
Oh my gosh. And again, to reinforce the idea that there needs to be experts on the team, I think that security is an ever-changing landscape, right? And achieving a high level of maturity involves the initial investment to get there, but also the constant nurturing to stay there, because security is an ever-changing playing field. And there are threats emerging in new places every day.